Welcome to Zombie Strains, the podcast that watches all the zombie movies. Today, we have an A-list superstar.
Okay, baby, hitch up your drawers.
That was Charlton Heston, and he is locked and loaded to fight for humanity's survival. But he's also armed with his wit.
Build coffins, that's all you'll need.
Coming at you from 1971, it's the Omega Man.
You know, I've seen people act like that in pictures. What do they call them? Zombies or something?
Zombie.
Zombies?
What's a zombie? Well, a zombie is, Mr. Bill is... The living dead.
They are the living dead.
Get into zombies. It's an army of zombies no armies could stand.
The unburied dead are coming back to life and seeking human victims.
I saw the dead rise.
Kill the brain, and you kill the ghoul.
Welcome to Zombie Strains. I'm John.
I'm Andy.
And I'm Brad.
Guys, a big budget, an action movie. Charlton Heston. What is this podcast? I don't even know.
Here's my question. That intro music we have has a lot of cool quotes about zombies, but we need a special edition version of it that has our favorite quotes from movies that would include things like, okay, baby, hitch up your drawers and shoot that chassis over to me, Lassie. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So get on it, producer Brad.
Please.
All right.
And if you didn't know, from the intro, we're watching the Omega Man, genre film that Charlton Heston made in 1971, where he famously utters the line, "Get your damn hands off me, you damn decaying zombie." I think that's this movie, right? No, that's
something like
something
that.
like
Yes.
that. Yeah, what a trip this was.
Yes.
I remember seeing this as a young person, and the experience as an adult person is very different.
This is one of the, I hate to sound pretentious, but the most rich texts we've ever watched as far as like cultural commentary and context.
Yeah. Remember we kept saying during the 60s, like we made predictions and we were bummed that it never seemed to get there. And here we go, 70s, right out of the gate, like full 70s, 100%,
Yes.
pedal to the
This
metal.
is such a 70s movie.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. And this gave me, I have a lot of hope for the movies to come. That's a cue for producer Brad to just crush us coming up. But yeah.
I wish I had a cue for ominous music, but I don't.
Well, on a serious note, before we jump in, so recently, as of this recording, we're probably a little bit in your past, listeners, but Sam Neill passed away, who was an amazing actor, most famous for Jurassic Park. I don't know if... millions of people know this, but of our listeners, I don't know who knows this. He was never in a zombie movie that I'm aware of, but he was in some absolute bangers of horror movies. Yes. And I thought we might just take a minute to talk about a couple of performances. I know what my favorite is, Andy, but I'm going to let you go first because I think you're going to pick the same thing.
Well, I don't know if it's, Well, the most memorable performance I have seen him in that's not Jurassic Park is Event Horizon.
That's great.
Yes, which I was trying to think if that had anything that we could technically shoehorn into being a zombie, but I don't think so.
I don't think so. That is such a wonderful scene-chewing performance.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. It's just an over-the-top film, and he perfectly embodies what that film is going for, which is just pure horror cheese.
And I'll pick a similar one. Often overlooked, but I think it is one of John Carpenter's best movies, In the Mouth of Madness, starring Sam Neill. He's extraordinary, and it's an extraordinary movie. Like, it is a great horror movie, and a lot of people don't think so. I happen to think it's brilliant, and he's brilliant in it. The year after he made Jurassic Park, he makes this, it's not low budget, but just like skeezy, schlocky horror movie directed by John Carpenter. It's amazing.
You made me watch this, John, about a year ago,
and
I was so glad that you did. That was if you're listening to this podcast and you haven't seen it, I guarantee you're going to like it.
Yeah. And actually one of his first roles, well, I shouldn't say one of his first, but an early role was actually in the Omen 3, The Final Conflict. Not a great movie. However, Sam Neill plays the adult Damien who's trying to bring about the end of the world, and he's great. And like, I can't even recommend the movie, but he's absolutely fantastic in it. So
does he play... Jog my memory. Is he like a a businessman antichrist in that movie?
Yes, he's a corporate businessman antichrist in that movie.
Okay.
100%.
So you heard it. John loves that movie and he thinks everyone should watch it.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll just move on.
Well, I believe in between The Omen 3 and In the Mouth of Madness, I haven't seen this film, so I'm going by title alone. He was in a movie called Attack Force Z.
Oh,
what?
And it's not a zombie film. It's a group of Australian commandos launch a secret mission against Japanese forces. But it was Sam Neill and Mel Gibson. 1981.
And I heard this rumor, Brad, but also I've been told after our Avengers episode that I am not to confidently state things about James Bond movies ever again.
But
wasn't he considered for the role of Bond at one point?
Yes, and you can go online and you can find audition tapes. They've been leaked by now.
Oh, okay.
wow.
But he also said he never wanted it, so who knows how much effort he put into it.
Yeah.
Listeners, we were raked over the coals by a listener over our Avengers episode.
Yes.
So, yes. I don't know.
I was
I don't know
shouted
if I
at.
can.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
It was
not
rough.
raked over the coals for the episode, just for some of the facts that you stated or didn't state.
Yeah, I think my first mistake was when you said, "You're a Bond guy, right?" And I said, "Yeah." And then I managed to get every basic Bond question completely wrong for the next hour. So, except for the cars. I got the cars right.
Got the cars right. That's really all that matters.
Yes.
So, yes.
All right. Well, we're not actually delaying because we don't like this movie. It's a fascinating movie. Charlton Heston in The Omega Man. How about you tell us how this came to be, Brad? This is full of interesting that guys and stories, and lay it on us.
All right, The Omega Man was released on August 1st, 1971 by Warner Brothers. It's the first big-budget Hollywood studio film we have seen on zombie strains. The budget was just under $4 million. All the other films we have watched were B-movies, independents, or foreign films. Now, The Omega Man was not the only post-apocalyptic or dystopian film from 1971. Also released were George Lucas's THX 1138 and Stanley Kubrick's A Clockwork Orange.
I've seen both of those films. Also released, by the way, were Dirty Harry and the French Connection.
Yes.
Dirty Harry sort of leans a little bit into this kind of world with its view of violence and justice.
Yeah.
Yes, we're entering a phase where like the gun somebody carries is like a thing. That will go away in later action movies, but it's all over this movie for sure.
The Omega Man is the second story to be adapted twice that we have watched on Zombie Strains. We've already watched two versions of the 1909 play, The Ghostbreakers.
Yep.
The first was the 1940 film, The Ghostbreakers, starring Bob Hope and Paulette Goddard. It was adapted again in 1953 and retitled Scare Stiff with Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis.
One of John's favorite films.
I've been trying to forget that for months, Brad.
Not my fault.
No, it is literally your fault, but carry on.
The first version of the I Am Legend novel we watched was The Last Man on Earth from 1964, starring Vincent Price. So The Omega Man is the second adaptation of this novel, and there will be a third in a couple of decades.
That's right.
The film was shot in Los Angeles, and to achieve a deserted city, the filmmakers shot the exterior city scenes on Sunday mornings when downtown LA was empty. I don't know if you noticed the other cheat they did. They would often just freeze frame. And they catch a moment where there's nothing out there. They just freeze it.
Yep.
The exterior of Charlton Heston's apartment was a set on the Warner Brothers ranch, a studio near the main Warner Brothers lot. And you've probably seen glimpses of this facade many times over the years. The fountain used in the Friends TV show title sequence was in the park just in front of this facade. And if you freeze frame at the right time, when Friends is playing, you can see the windows of Chuck's place.
Huh.
Now, this lot was recently renovated, and the streets and buildings seen in The Omega Man are gone. The fountain was preserved and moved to the main Warner Brothers lot.
Cool.
Boris Sagal directed The Omega Man. He was mostly a TV director. In the 60s, he directed episodes of Dr. Kildare, The Man from U.N.C.L.E., and The Twilight Zone. He also directed the 1965 Elvis film, Girl Happy. In the 70s and 80s, he directed many big miniseries like Rich Man, Poor Man, Masada, and World War III. He is the father of Katie Sagal, who played Peg Bundy on Married with Children.
Oh my gosh.
Huh.
And he died in 1981 at the age of 57.
Whoa. I don't like that.
Am I wrong? Did he die in a dramatic way?
He did. He was working on one of these miniseries, and he exited a helicopter and turned the wrong way. unfortunately, into the tail rotor.
Oh, my God. Speaking of being 57, though, Charlton Heston is 48 in this movie, and kind of puts me to shame, just to say. But I guess that's his job, right?
Husband and wife John and Joyce Corrington wrote the screenplay. John earned a Master's of Arts degree, a PhD in philosophy, and then a law degree. Joyce was an engineer with a PhD in chemistry. Joyce said Neville, the lead character played by Charlton Heston, was created by combining the poetic side of John with the cold science side of Joyce.
Interesting.
And it was Joyce's knowledge and fear of germ warfare that led to the Omega Man using that as its theme.
Huh.
Together, they wrote 5 screenplays between 69 and 74. The first script was for the 1969 Roger Corman film, Von Richthofen and Brown.
I missed that one.
Same here. Martin Scorsese directed their third script, Boxcar Bertha, another Corman production. And they also wrote the 5th and final script in the original Planet of the Apes series, Battle for the Planet of the Apes. After these films, they went back to their regular jobs. John worked at a law firm and Joyce taught chemistry. But they went back to writing in 1979, this time in soap operas. They wrote on The Search for Tomorrow before creating their own soap opera, Texas, which ran for 2 years in the early 80s. And John died in 1988. Ron Grainer composed the music. He wrote the Doctor Who theme music, which was then arranged by Delia Derbyshire for the series.
Oh, wow.
This has a really memorable soundtrack. The music was really stood out at times.
Yes, and sometimes it was a real hit, and sometimes it was a real miss.
Yes.
Well, his version of Doctor Who is different than what we know. And when he heard Derbyshire's version, he said, I wrote that? And she said, well, some of it. So she made some changes to it. He also wrote the theme to the Prisoner TV series, and he died in 1981.
Oh, there's a couple of bangers.
Yeah.
Russell Meddy was a cinematographer. His first credit was in 1934, and over his career, he worked on some famous films. He did Bringing Up Baby with Cary Grant and Katharine Hepburn, Douglas Sirk's Magnificent Obsession, Orson Welles' Touch of Evil, starring Charlton Heston,
Yep.
Stanley Kubrick's Spartacus, and the first episode of Columbo, directed by Steven Spielberg.
Oh.
And he died in 1978.
You know who loves Columbo?
I do.
Yes, but so does Andy's
My wife loves Columbo, yeah.
Yeah.
Now on to the cast. Charlton Heston starred as Neville, the military scientist. His first film was in 1941, but his breakout role was in the 1952 film The Greatest Show on Earth. He became known for epic period films like The Ten Commandments, Ben-Hur, and El Cid. In 1968, he starred in The Planet of the Apes, which led to a series of dystopian and post-apocalyptic films, including The Omega Man and Soylent Green.
Soylent Green. Can I just interject here? So Charlton's pivot to genre, I just have never been sure if it is because he was so successful or because the world was sort of passing him by and he grabbed at these genre pictures to stay relevant. Like he's sort of a legend now, but was this in a period like a fallow period for him? I mean, this is a big budget picture, so I'm assuming not, but I was never sure.
Well, it's not a big budget. It's big compared to what we've seen.
Yeah.
And I think by the late 60s, his star had dimmed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think he did accept roles he may not have accepted in the past.
Was he considered like a squeaky clean sort of all-American guy or not necessarily?
Well, one of the quotes from Rosalind Cash, who plays Lisa in this film, is she wasn't concerned about the interracial relationship they were having. She was concerned that she was going to screw Moses and what would the public think. So he played Moses in the Ten Commandments.
Yeah, he's a fairly conservative, squeaky clean kind of guy, though obviously he does his fair share of drinking and whatnot. But
yeah.
Heston died in 2008.
All right.
Anthony Zerbe played Mateus. Before the Omega Man, his biggest parts were in Cool Hand Luke and They Call Me Mr. Tibbs.
He's a total that guy.
Yeah, he has had a long career as a character actor, and if you don't know his name, you know his face. He was this one I'm going to test you guys on. He was the evil inventor in Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park.
I missed that one.
Andy, did you see that?
Surprisingly, I did not catch that one.
Well, it was on TV in the 70s. I think you were a little young, but I have a feeling you
probably.
might have liked Kiss at some point in your life.
I grew up a little on the sheltered side, and Kiss was on the other side of the line of acceptability. So
All right, so Zerby also played Admiral Doherty in Star Trek Insurrection and Counselor Hammond in The Matrix Reloaded and The Matrix Revolutions.
Huh.
Yeah, I read a quote just looking at him in IMDb, like he's born to play a villain, and he had a quote where he said, "1 year I was responsible for the deaths of 178 people in the movies and TV shows I was in, though I think 74 of them were in one episode of TV." So
I feel like I should be able to call to mind his role in Star Trek Insurrection, but I'm coming up blank, but fair enough.
He plays the admiral who ends up being kind of nefarious and untrusting or untrustworthy. I haven't seen that film in a long time, so that's all I know.
I've never seen that film because I watched the trailer first. Yeah.
Yeah, not considered one of the high points of Star Trek motion picture history, but hey.
All right, Rosalind Cash played Lisa. The Omega Man was her second film. Her film debut was a bit part in Clute, the Donald Sutherland and Jane Fonda film that was released a few months before The Omega Man. In the 70s, she had guest appearances on many TV shows, including The Mary Tyler Moore Show, Good Times, What's Happening, and Starsky and Hutch. She played John Emdahl, the leader of the Black Lectroids in The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai.
That's so exciting.
And if you don't remember, the Black Lectroids were the good ones and the Red Lectroids were the bad ones. And here's a fact for the two of you for your next zombie-themed TV show. In season 4 of Knight Rider, Cash played Harana, a voodoo princess who steals art and jewels.
Whoa.
Nice.
Are we going to get to watch an episode of Knight Rider as part of this podcast?
We might have to do that as our 70s, 80s transition, maybe.
Okay.
I think that would be something fun for you guys. It's not a true zombie episode, so I don't think we should watch it on the mainstream.
She's definitely one of these people who just became a working actor, right? Like she's in her list of TV shows in the 80s, right? Hill Street Blues, all of the procedurals, Cagney and Lacey. And then in the 90s, it's the same thing. She just worked like as an actor, like you do. So.
And one of her last credits was executive producer on The Real World for MTV.
Wow.
Eric Lanaville played Richie, the teen in need of Neville's help. He is probably best known for playing Luther Hawkins, the orderly on the show St. Elsewhere.
Oh, yeah.
He then directed 20 episodes of St. Elsewhere and became a successful TV director. He directed episodes of Head of the Class, LA Law, Midnight Caller, Doogie Howser, Everybody Hates Chris, Lost, Heroes, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and Chicago Fire.
Huh.
All right. Now, did you notice the Warner Brothers logo in the title sequence?
Yeah, it said something else, though. It did. And I didn't write it down, but I noted it at the time.
Well, first, the shield itself was different. It was a stylized 1970s version of the WB shield. Mm-hmm. And below it, it read, a Kinney Leisure Service.
Yes, that was very odd. What is that about?
So Kinney was a large corporation that controlled a variety of companies, things like funeral homes, parking lots, and cleaning and maintenance companies.
Huh.
And then in the late 60s, they decided they wanted to get into the entertainment business. And one of the first companies they bought was National Periodic Publications, which we know better as DC Comics.
Huh.
Oh.
In 69, they then bought Warner Brothers 7 Arts, which was struggling. And from 69 to 72, a Kinney Leisure Service was seen below the Warner Brothers shield on films.
That's amazing.
In 72, Kinney divided into 2 separate companies, National Kinney Corporation and Warner Communications. And so since Warner Brothers is being bought right now, I thought it'd be fun just to go through the other times you've seen other companies below the shield.
All right.
In 89, Warner Brothers merged with Time Inc., and under the shield, it read a Time Warner Company.
Mm-hmm.
In 2001, AOL bought Time Warner, and it read an AOL Time Warner Company. And so now that Paramount Studios is buying Warner Brothers, though it's being fought, you might soon see a Paramount Skydance Company under the Warner Brothers shield.
That's bananas.
Yep, it just keeps happening over and over.
It's interesting, and I think DC Comics, we could probably do something similar, has changed hands a number of times. I know Marvel Comics has as well. So,
well, those are the facts for this film. Andy, do you want to treat us to some history?
I do. I have a good chunk of historical context for us today.
Yeah, I bet.
I will. I am very excited to discuss this movie, so I'll try to move through this as efficiently as I can. But I don't have so much as some actual events or dates that were happening at this time. But I pegged 3 or so themes that were going on at the time this movie came out in 1971 and are incredibly reflected in this film. So the first and the hugest one, I just have in all caps on my notes, crime wave.
Yes.
In the during the 60s and early 70s, there was a genuine rise in urban crime rates. The causes for this are much discussed and very complex, and I'm no expert. They include things like an epidemic of inexpensive heroin, huge changes in what you might call unskilled labor opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
But the primary explanation historians give for the crime spike in this time that specifically took place in a lot of American cities is simply that there were a ton of kids. The baby boomers were coming of age at this time, and statistically, the vast majority of crimes are committed by males under the age of 24, and there were simply a lot of males under the age of 24 at this time. So
that's very interesting.
This was exploited sometimes very cynically by politicians like Nixon and others. Nixon ran famously on a law and order ticket.
Yep.
This is the era of white flight, where middle-class white Americans were relocating to the suburbs, just as millions of black Americans were relocating to those cities, often fleeing oppression and economic change in the rural South.
Yep. In 1968, just before this, we had lots of riots, right? There were riots in Detroit, riots in Los Angeles. So it's a
lots of riots with very overt racial elements.
Yep.
And as a result, many middle-class Americans felt, I guess, quote, besieged in their own homes. This was sort of a time when you started double locking your door at night, maybe when you only went into the city during the day, when you felt it was safe, et cetera, et cetera. And politicians and pundits started pandering to what was called the silent majority. This, if you were a member of the silent majority, you were an honest, hardworking, God-fearing American who was just trying to live your life.
That's right.
But you were persecuted by hippies, druggies, liberals, and young people with their strange music and strange attitudes.
Yeah. And that is so all over this movie. But if I may interject something, please. I know somebody who never locked their door. His name was Alan Dumont, father of producer Brad Dumont.
That is true.
And look where you are now.
Look
Brad.
where you are now.
Yeah.
I just remember going on vacations. My mom would always run back to the house to lock the door and go, "Why didn't you lock it?" As we were leaving for a week.
That's great. So all this means that I bring this up because by the early mid 70s, a whole genre of what you might call vigilante fantasy movies springs up. I think this is a good example of it, but this is where like an honest American is pushed too far.
Dirty Harry.
And has to take the law into their own hands. Dirty Harry, I think, came out the same year or very soon after this movie did.
Yep.
And I think Death Wish is often cited as the culmination of this genre. And then also you got to remember that just a couple years earlier, in 1969, were the Manson murders.
That's right.
Which are often kind of looked at and as having revealed the dark side of the utopian 60s dream. And if you want to read a good book about this, I read a book a year or so ago called Chaos, Charles Manson, the CIA and the Secret History of the 60s by Tom O'Neill. And he goes in and debunks a lot of the mythology of the Manson murders in a way that's very informative.
And you know what's something, I don't want to knock you off your groove, Andy, but like something that I found interesting about this movie is it's the most overtly political film we've watched by a long shot. And I think that prior to the late 60s, prior to even the mid 60s, which are a big tumultuous time, I just don't think you talked about politics outside of your house.
Yeah.
Like it just wasn't acceptable. And then in 1971, you have this movie where this movie is all about politics. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this is something we can talk about as we get into the movie itself. But when you talk about Manson, his followers were called his family.
Yep.
Yes.
And in this film, these zombie creatures are called the family.
Oh, yeah.
This is one of the least subtle movies we've watched.
And, and somehow, I was saying this to producer Brad before we stopped recording, I did see this when I was like, I don't know, 10 or 11 or something. And missed all that. Oh, right over the head. It was just Charlton Heston with a gun. That's what I was there for.
Well, I have two more cultural context things. They'll go quicker than that first one. I wanted to really nail that crime thing, because I think that has its fingerprints all over this movie.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so obviously in the early 70s, the Vietnam War is not over yet, but specifically there is widespread discomfort with the way that scientific progress that was maybe exciting and exhilarating and hopeful a decade or two earlier instead is being used on national TV to kill and destroy rather than improve the world. Part of that was a fear of biological warfare as a potentially civilization-ending threat, joining nuclear weapons as one of many ways the world could end. And I think in this time you also see a sort of... so you have your Cold War fears that have been lurking behind these zombie movies for decades now. But by this time, well into the quagmire of Vietnam, I feel like our fears were sort of adapting to the murkiness of the real world.
Yeah.
So whereas in earlier decades, the apocalypse might come because like the Soviet Union directly attacks the US. In this movie, I don't think it is at all a coincidence that a marginal conflict in a distant part of the world sort of escalates and drags the entire globe into an apocalypse that nobody wants. So cannot be a coincidence that this movie came out in the middle of the Vietnam War.
No, absolutely not. Wasn't it the Russo-Cyanide War?
Yes. Mm-hmm. All right, the last thing I want to mention, it's a huge topic. I'm not going to get into it because I'm not qualified, but this is the era of Black power and Blaxploitation and the weird ways that they clashed with each other and empowered each other. Basically, a new generation of civil rights leaders has come along. They are younger and they're more radicalized than people like Martin Luther King Jr.
Yep.
And Black power movements start to displace the more traditional civil rights movements that were represented by that sort of older generation of leaders. This new generation emphasizes things like self-defense instead of nonviolence, and generally emphasize themes of self-reliance among marginalized communities. And when this movement bumped into Hollywood, it created the Blaxploitation film genre, which this film has at least a couple of toes into.
For sure.
And this is a genre film that sort of leans into these themes of heroes who are fighting a corrupt system, and in particular, Black women finding empowerment and control over their lives is a big theme of these movies. And I think that's going to come up in our discussion of the Omega Man. And with that, I'm going to stop talking.
All right. Before we jump into the whole movie, let me give a short summary of the plot of this film so people can follow along. The film opens with Charlton Heston, who is Robert Neville. He is driving around the city of Los Angeles, and he stops and shoots at a shadow that is in a building. And we learn very quickly that he is alone in downtown Los Angeles, and he is fighting a war against these sort of zombie vampire-like creatures who can't stand the sun and only come out at night. They are led by Matthias, and they call themselves the Family. As he's conducting this war, he runs into another woman who hasn't been turned into one of these zombies. We found out her name is Lisa, and she's actually connected with a group of other survivors who've moved outside of the city for safety. As the film goes on, they ask Charlton Heston, who is a former army scientist before the apocalypse, to help them cure one of their own, a kid named Richie. He's able to develop a serum that does this, and it looks like everybody's going to escape and lived happily ever after. However, that is not Robert Neville's destiny, and as things start to fall apart, as he tries to rescue Lisa, he ends up becoming a martyr, the last sort of representative of the world of science to be killed in this new world. And we're left with a kind of not optimistic, but not completely pessimistic ending as the last of the survivors drive off into the sunset with their new serum. So did I miss any of the big ones there, Andy?
No, I'm impressed you were able to sum it up that succinctly, actually.
All right. Well, let's get into this, because though there's a lot of politics in this movie, it is a movie, right? Like, it is a movie about action stuff. So it starts with Charlton Heston just driving around somewhat recklessly. I don't think we get any of this in Last Man on Earth. I think you do get it in the 2017 adaptation, I Am Legend. But he's driving, first of all, he's driving a big... So the one thing I'll observe about these cars and motorcycles, and there's many of them in this movie, most of them, with a couple of exceptions, are late model. Like his first car is a 1970 Ford XL, which would have been the new model when they shot this movie. It's a convertible, bright red. Later, he trades it in for a 1970 Ford Mustang convertible. But in any case, he's driving around in that car. And the first thing that sort of clues us in is there's nobody around. But then he stops suddenly, pulls out a submachine gun and like shoots at somebody running inside a building. And did you notice the sped up film in this little sequence here?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Yeah. Special effects, they call it. Just for the look of this movie, one thing I find fascinating, and producer Brad, you might know more than I know you know more than I do, but this movie looks like there's another movie that came out this year, right? Or the year before, which is Patton, which is another sort of serious drama, which is another movie I didn't get until I was older. I thought it was a fun movie about a cranky general. It turns out it's a Vietnam War propaganda. But anyway, when you're inside in these shots, it looks like old studio lighting and shooting. It's just kind of cheap looking to modern eyes. But I feel like in a few years, right, we're going to get The Godfather and all of that changes. And I don't know what actually changed it, but I feel like we're in this sort of last gasp of the sort of cheap interior shot. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. I think this was a very striking opening sequence.
Yes.
I think this is by far our most zombie-esque traveling through the dead city sequence that we have seen yet. Our most developed version of this. We've seen smaller versions of this where someone has been traveling through kind of an abandoned city, but this really captures that, like, this city is dead, it's gone vibe.
Yes, and he goes through, we don't need to go into details of all, he ends up accidentally crashing his car. He's got to get
before we talk about the car crash, can we talk about the gun he uses? You're going to talk about cars in this episode.
Yeah, tell me about
guns.
this gun, Andy.
All right. You maybe already know this, John, but so this is an iconic gun, iconic movie gun that he uses to shoot at some quickly glimpsed figures. He stands up in his car and shoots a Smith & Wesson M76 submachine gun. And this is an important gun because its use in this specific movie made it a common weapon in action movies going forward for the next decade or two.
Oh, interesting.
So I don't know if you know any of the history of this gun. It's kind of fun. It was really hastily designed for use by Navy SEALs around this time. Do you know they had to replace a gun that another company refused to sell to us because they didn't want it used in the Vietnam War? Can you guess what country refused to sell us the gun?
It can't be France. I'm going to say England.
It was Sweden.
Sweden. Okay.
Yes. A famously neutral country, of course. The trademark gun of the Navy SEALs was a submachine gun called the Swedish K, but Sweden, being a neutral country, declined to sell it to the U.S. for use in a war zone. So the U.S. scrambled to make a replacement, and they made this. And if you notice, it has sort of a rough and ugly look to it.
It has no aesthetic features. It looks like if you took a gun and you just had the metal parts you needed to shoot bullets, like you would have this gun.
Exactly. And there's a reason for that, and that is because of the speed with which they needed to produce this gun. They skipped the phase of manufacturing where on a normal weapon, hard edges and welding lines would be smoothed out to make it more aesthetically appealing.
It's also got this big flare stopper. Like it's hard to describe, but like this, it's not a silencer, but it's designed to cut down on muzzle flare, and it's got a giant one. You can't even hold it. Several times he's holding it by that, not while he's shooting, but I mean, like that would get really hot really fast.
Yeah. Yes. So this gun wasn't very commercially successful, but it did end up getting used in a ton of 70s and 80s action movies. And it recently appeared in a famous superhero movie. John, do you know what movie it was featured in prominently?
No, I don't.
It is the gun that the Joker fires in The Dark Knight at Batman when Batman has just like crashed the Joker's semi-truck.
Yeah.
And Batman's like racing at him on the Bat bike or whatever. And the Joker, in a kind of memorable shot, comes out shooting this particular gun wildly. So,
Yeah, interesting.
all right. That's all my gun facts. Let's get back to the movie.
All right. Well, then, so he crashes his car just because he's sort of driving irresponsibly. So he goes to the car dealership and picks up a 1970 Ford Mustang. Now, what's interesting here is that he has started to sort of talk. He talks to himself, but not to himself. Like in the corner of the dealership, there's somebody at the sales desk, and he sort of has this running conversation under his breath about the car he's going to take as if that person were alive. And he does this a lot throughout the first act of this movie. And he definitely does it here.
It's hard to watch this movie and not compare it to The Last Man on Earth.
Yes.
But I really liked the many touches in this movie, like the many ticks that he's developed just on his own for years.
So here's the interesting part. And I like, this is the part that sort of tipped me off to the sort of politics of this film. He goes to a movie theater, and what movie does he watch, Andy?
He's watching the 1970 Woodstock documentary.
That's right. And he puts the film on and he sits down to watch it. But I would describe him as hate watching this movie.
Yeah.
Like they let the hippies speak about love and connection and all this stuff. And he is like sneering at the screen because he's surrounded by an apocalypse that he clearly blames on these people. Did you get that vibe too?
I do. He knows all the words to the movie. He's speaking along with the dialogue, but he's doing it in a contemptuous way.
And, for a guy who's trying to survive on his own in a big city, he loses track of time. And this is our first cue. He steps out of the theater, he looks around, and he says the following.
My God, it's almost dark. They'll be waking up soon.
So a panicked Charlton Heston runs to his car and continues to drive like a maniac. This is seen as similar. We could spend the whole movie comparing this to The Last Man on Earth, and I don't want to. But this scene is very similar. When he gets home, he's ambushed by some creatures in long black cloaks that we can't see all that well.
Yes. These, however, again, we'll try not to just always compare and contrast to Last Man on Earth, but these ones are a little different than the ones who are mobbing his house in Last Man on Earth. How are these cloaked figures different than the feral vampires of Last Man?
Well, they're intelligent and they can ambush and plan. They have human intelligence. They're not, in Last Man on Earth, there were sort of two levels of vampires or zombies, so to speak. There aren't in this one. It's just one level, and they're all intelligent and capable of action and planning.
Yes.
And their motions, their ability to move hasn't been diminished.
Correct.
Like in The Last Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they have a fairly sophisticated ambush for him waiting at his house. Like I think one of them throws, I don't know if it's a Molotov or something like that, but they try to catch him with a firebomb, and then a bunch of others spring out in the ambush. So we're going to have to talk a little bit later about exactly what are the mental capabilities of these quasi zombies, but at least so far they seem like a more dangerous threat than just simple mindless zombies.
Yeah, and then we get our first big stunt too. Like the other thing I want to point out is this is our first action movie. Like this is an action movie with action in it. It's got stunt driving and shooting, and like the first big stunt is there's one of the zombies, so to speak, gets on the back of his car and he slams on the brakes and it flies over the car into a pile of cardboard boxes.
Yes.
And then he shoots it, and then the fourth one, escapes. So yeah, it's a sort of intense scene that shows what his life is like. And then we're going to spend a lot of time with him in his bunker. And I can't recall, before we get into sort of bunker time, learning about his life inside, do we get our first look at the family here? Or is it after he's sort of started to have flashbacks?
It's a little bit after. It's like there's kind of a lengthy scene at this point that shows him. We get a sense of his daily rhythms in his apartment, and it's at this point that we get our first flashback or two, and we start cutting over to the family, where we learn that the mutant vampire whatevers are quite a bit more intelligent than they were in the last version of the story.
Yeah, so here's what's fascinating to me. So they have a couple of flashbacks here that are very explicit, like there's this marginal conflict, it gets out of hand, a bioweapon is dropped on the USA, causing this conflict. As part of these flashbacks, we get a newscaster, a regular, normal person who sort of makes these judgmental newscasts. This is Anthony Zerbe, the actor. He is also the leader of the quote-unquote family, Matthias. So we see him before the apocalypse as well as after the apocalypse. So Charlton Heston and Matthias sort of have a compare and contrast aspect to them. But his sort of alone time here is slightly less desperate, I think, than Vincent Price's, right? Like he's got his generator going. He's set up a bust of Caesar with his own military cap on it, and he talks to Caesar and plays chess.
I found that pretty charming.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen chess pieces that are taller than the ones used in his chess
Yeah, these
game
are like
here?
6-inch high chess pieces. This is very 70s to have gigantic, ornate chess pieces.
Well, the world was his oyster. He could have any set he wanted.
That's right.
I guess
That's
so.
right. However, as this is going on, we get our first taste of the family. And we get, there's an assault on his building, right, which he has fortified. But I want to introduce, because we get Matthias and his sidekick having a conversation here, which is our first intro, and they're having an argument about how to kill Neville. They've made it clear that Neville is the last representative of the old humanity, the humanity that destroyed itself through over-reliance on technology. And the family have sworn not to do that. So I've got a clip here where Matthias is explaining this to his sidekick who wants to use modern weaponry to kill Neville, and he's telling him why they can't do that.
Forget the old ways, brother, all the old hatreds, all the old pains. Forget and remember, the family is one. But him, that thing, that creature of the wheel, that lord of the infernal engines, the machines.
So we're introduced to the family and their outlook on life. What do you think about this, Andy? Because now we've said, like, we're about 15, 20 minutes in, and we've had this look at Woodstock. We've had this comparison with the family and contrasted with Charlton Heston and his old life. Like, tell me where we are or where your head's at this point in this movie.
So I had never seen this movie. So I was caught really off guard by the fact that the, quote, vampires in this movie are basically, they're sort of like a primitivist cult.
Yeah.
Right? They're led by this charismatic Matthias, an obvious stand-in for, the Manson family, I think.
Yep.
But they represent sort of anti-progress. It was science and technology and medicine and tools and electricity that led to the apocalypse. And so they renounce those things. And they won't even use those things to kill their nemesis, Charlton Heston here. So
yeah, they actually rig up a catapult with balls of flaming pitch to fling at his house.
Yes.
And they're pretty accurate with it, which is surprising.
Yeah, they get it in the window.
But maybe they wish they used technology, because what does Neville come out with to blow them all away? This is a very famous gun as well.
Neville comes out with a giant chonker of a gun. This is a Browning automatic rifle, BAR, and it's like the iconic machine gun of the mid-century, would you say?
Yeah, it's like a platoon in World War II would get issued one of these to mow stuff down. Yeah.
This gun was around for decades. What famous criminal duo used this in their crime spree?
Oh, I don't know.
Bonnie and Clyde.
Oh, really?
I think they sawed the barrels down, but yes.
Did they use it in the movie too?
I do not know.
Oh, wow. Because this would be a heck of a thing to carry around.
Yeah, so this was developed for use in World War I, but it was used all the way through the Vietnam War. At the time this movie takes place, it was kind of obsolete. It was about to be replaced by the M60. It was reliable and well regarded, but with all of the stuff that Neville has tricked it out with, which includes a starlight scope and a huge red infrared lamp.
Yeah.
This sucker probably weighs about 20 pounds.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's kind of crazy. So
That's right. Chuck can handle it.
Yeah.
Chuck can absolutely handle it. Now,
Yeah, and he like picks off a bunch of the family outside with it and basically drives them off.
That's right. That's right. So one sort of last flashback here, because I want to bring it up because it's also kind of hilarious. So we finally get to know his job, which was he was working. The last thing he was doing was he was a military scientist and he was trying to find a vaccine for this plague. And he, has agreed, let's do one more test. He packs up his bag of vaccine stuff. He gets in a helicopter. And what happens in the helicopter, Andy?
Well, while they're flying around, the pilot of the helicopter succumbs to the plague.
Yes.
So we haven't really talked about this, but when
let's
the
talk
plague
about the plague
gets you,
for a second.
Yeah, it's surprisingly non-gory or gross. I think they missed a chance to have people vomiting up gruesome fluids and getting boils on their faces and stuff. You just kind of clutch your head, and within a few seconds, you're dead.
Yes.
So that happens to the pilot of the helicopter, but then we see that Neville has contracted the plague. He starts gripping his head as if just like every other victim does. So the helicopter...
when it's Chuck Heston, he grabs his face like with his giant hand, like, rah! And it's just, it's a little over the top.
It's just always more epic with him, even his death. Yeah, the helicopter veers off and crashes.
And it doesn't bump on the ground.
No, it
explodes. And then we see Neville lying on the ground all bloody. I'm like, I don't think so. But anyway.
Yes, I noted the same thing. But he crawls to his briefcase, which contained a test experimental vaccine for the plague. And he just injects himself. And so this is the film's way of saying he is immune because alone among humanity, he took the one the test vaccine that worked.
That's right. So there's a few things I want to move through here, but so now we know why he's immune. Now we know why he's alone. Now we know why he wants to kill the family. We learned some things about these zombies though. So let me describe them. So first of all, they lose all coloration in their skin, hair, and eyes. They're like true super albinos. And some of their skin sort of decays a little bit, but they have these white eye contacts in. They all wear sunglasses. They can't stand the light. However, they're not blood drinking or anything like that. They still eat regular food, right? We discover. Because he mentioned some foraging for food. And his job, what he's going to do now, is he's hunting for their nest, is what he says. If I can find the family's nest during the day, I can wipe them out. But he can't figure out where it is. And so that's this part of the movie, is him sort of hunting around.
Look, so I want to talk about the zombies a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I jumped right past him.
No, is this correct? When you get the plague, most people just die within seconds, right?
Yep.
Some people, we're later going to learn, are resistant, but will ultimately succumb to it, maybe years down the road.
Right.
Some people, however, once you succumb to the plague, whether it's quickly or if you aren't killed by it, you will be transformed by it into these pasty white things. And so what happens when you become one of these zombies? So it's suggested later in the film that you maybe become feral and attack everyone around you.
Yes.
However, Matthias, who is himself one of these pasty white zombies, has the role of sort of cult leader where he controls them, or has at least subdued them so they obey his commands. Did you understand the mechanism of what was happening here?
Yeah, and I think what happens is you retain your sort of human intelligence, but you become much more aggressive and sort of
and maybe susceptible to
suggestion.
Suggestion, is that the idea?
That's the idea. And I think this is a clear knock on hippies. If you want to know what conservatives thought of hippies in 1970, here it is right here. Right? It's these people who are all victims of groupthink. They listen to charismatic leaders who are leading them down the wrong path, and they say crazy stuff that doesn't make any sense all the time. right? Like this is,
Yes.
And the lines they say, I think, are what you hear. I think the reason we get to see the Woodstock movie is to compare the actual things said by hippies to what Matthias and the family says.
Yes.
From that perspective.
I think also along those lines, early in the film, Matthias has regret that they can't return to their human state.
Right.
It's sort of implied. But then later in the film, he says something when someone says you aren't normal, he's offended by that. This is who we are. There is no going back. We can't go back. And it's implied that not that we choose not to, but we're unable to. And then later when Lisa turns,
yeah,
when she wakes up in the zombie state, she is babbling like she is turned against Charlton Heston.
Yeah.
And Matthias isn't around her at the time. So then it's implied that it's the plague that does it. So it's very confusing, the rules with this plague throughout the film.
Yes.
I was a little surprised by sort of what seemed like the sloppiness about how the plague worked in a movie that otherwise is very competently done. You know what I mean?
It's a bit hand wavy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But that's okay. The other thing I want to note is just that that we talked about was the house. When we say he's defending his house, it's like a penthouse apartment, and it's in the city, not outside the city. I think that's important.
Yes.
Like he's got a fortress of his own in the city, and every night he's besieged by the lawless people roaming the city who, when we first see them, they look, it might as well be footage of like looters, right?
Yes.
Because they're like just mindlessly destructive for no real reason. They just love going around and destroying things that represent progress. So any kind of tool, any kind of modern anything, they just smash it and set it on fire.
Absolutely. So he, on one of his hunts, he goes into a hotel which has like shops in the lobby and that kind of thing. He's looking for some new clothes. He's being a bit laissez-faire. He does discover a dead member of the family. So I think this is where the plague gets a little wonky too, because we don't know why they're dead. Like, you know, I think they're just setting up the plague does eventually kill you.
Yeah, I think the plague, after it turns you into a zombie, there is a final state, and that is death.
Right.
Which will ultimately come for you. Because at some point someone says, Matthias, you're not too far. You're very far gone. You're not too far from death or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway.
However, that's not the interesting bit. When he comes back down, he awkwardly takes interest in a mannequin who's dressed in a bathing suit. It's really,
Yes.
It's really like, clearly this is Charlton Heston trying to do his mad voice. He's like making moves.
He is about to fondle a mannequin.
He's about to fondle a mannequin. And he hears something, and he turns around and he looks at all the other mannequins, and there's one that wasn't there before. And it's Rosalind Cash, who takes one look at him and sprints out the door. So I want to stop and describe her character, Lisa, because we were talking a little bit about about how the stamp of sort of Black power and those ideas are on this film, and she is the embodiment of that.
Yes.
Like, you can give me, you know, I want you to add to this, but like, we look at her, she's wearing a black turtleneck, brown leather pants and a jacket, and has a giant teased out afro. She is like the poster child for Black power. And she has, later we see she has a handgun as well. And I don't know what she was doing there, but then she flees and he chases her. So tell me about this, what you think of this intro and this first shot of, first of all, it's very silly that she pretends to be a mannequin for a second, which is kind of hilarious. But yeah, what do you think about this?
Her mannequin pose is really awkward.
Yes.
Like if you have to stand perfectly still, you wouldn't stand like she's standing, which is like with her legs bent and one leg up, I think.
Yeah.
Whatever. So
yes.
Anyway, she made a bad decision. But yeah, no, he chases her across, and I did like that. Like, she loses him.
Yeah.
But I did like that he imagines that he's going crazy, that he's so far gone that he just chased like a fake mannequin across the city.
Yes.
But no, she's going to be in this movie a lot. If you just think of like a Black power female protagonist, it's who this is.
Yep.
You described her appearance, which very much matches the stereotype. And she also she has the attitude that you expect from this sort of heroine, right? She's smart talking. She's sharp. She's aggressive and in control. Yeah, she's a really charismatic screen presence.
I should mention that the writer, Joyce, right before this film was made, she was teaching at an all-black college.
Oh, interesting.
Xavier University of Louisiana. And she thought that the Black Panther vibe and the students she was around would be a great chemistry in this film. So it was her idea to insert her with Charlton Heston.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because though this is a very conservative film, we do have a interracial relationship here that everybody seems to be totally cool with. So I found that interesting. But let's keep on with the plot and we'll come back to that. So what happens almost immediately following is he goes and picks out another frilly shirt with poofy sleeves that he can wear around. And he goes into the cellar of this.
I'm sorry. Can we pause on the puffy shirt for a second?
Yeah, let's talk. This is like from a Seinfeld episode.
I'm watching that and I'm thinking, what manly actor wears a puffy shirt? Unironically. I also just watched The Search for Spock, and Kirk does the same thing. William Shatner wears.
It's the same shirt.
It's almost like the same shirt.
That's right.
And it's meant to be heroic in these films, and I don't remember it ever being heroic. I don't know how it got past everyone.
I don't know, but it's pretty hilarious. But he goes downstairs to get some wine, and is assaulted by members of the family there and captured.
This is the second time he's been ambushed in like the first 30 minutes of this movie. Is it believable that he has survived the 2 years this movie wants us to? If he falls for all their traps.
I know. I wonder if he's just gotten careless or tired or something over time, or
I would totally buy that as a legit answer, like that he is just starting to make mistakes.
Yes.
But yeah, he gets ambushed and captured by the family.
You can also tell this is a conservative movie because while they're interrogating him, he takes a poke at the IRS, which is pretty great. But they have a sort of discussion about the future and how he's not part of it. And they're going to make an example of him and they're going to kill him. The clip from, I think, the beginning of the intro where he said, coffins, that's all you need. I believe he says that to them in this exchange. And then they pass judgment on him and they're going to kill him. And there's a very exciting action sequence coming up. But first, I want to talk about Heston's outfit when they take him out in a cart to be taken out and crucified. What does he have on his head, Andy?
Well, he has like a dunce cap,
yes,
or maybe like something that evokes like the KKK hood almost.
I couldn't. It's like a wizard hat or a dunce cap, or maybe the original like old-fashioned KKK hat or hood. It is bizarre. Fortunately, it doesn't have it on for very long.
Yeah, it falls off really quickly. So yeah.
So they're going to take him. I think it's into the Rose Bowl. But did you recognize it, producer Brad?
Dodger Stadium.
All right. And they're gonna set him on fire. They're gonna burn him in effigy in the middle of Dodger Stadium. Can I just make a side comment that for a group of people who can't stand light, they certainly love fire.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
However, he's saved when the Dodger Stadium lights come on, and two people run in and grab him and flee. We have a new character, Dutch, who we'll talk more about later. But who's the other character who's in to rescue him?
Lisa, the woman he chased earlier.
Yes. And she has a very much like, you listen to me, pal. I'm taking you with me and you are my prisoner. So it's not just an escape. She wants something from him. And this is one of our big action scenes in the movie. He's riding a motorcycle down the steps. This also is a 1970 Honda 350, which is kind of fun. This is, if you're a motorcycle nerd, this is like the period of the small body Honda. Like, everybody has these things throughout the world. Like these Honda 350s is like, they explode. There's a gazillion of them everywhere through the 70s. But anyway.
I enjoyed this scene with him riding all around. And there's a bunch of scenes of him driving down big stairwells in the motorcycle, which I enjoyed. He charges on the motorcycle past a bunch of cultists, and no one thinks to just like give him a shove as he drives by. I mean, like it wouldn't really be that hard to crash someone on a motorcycle if you needed to.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. And it's a fun chase. It's also bizarre. At one point they stop and he turns to her and she, like he's going to make a move, and she cracks him on the back of the neck with the butt of her pistol. Like, don't mess with me, man. You know, she's coming across as really tough. And her buddy Dutch is, you know who he reminded me of was the crazy pilot in Mad Max. Like he's got this floppy hat and he's riding a Harley, like a custom Harley chopper, and he's got a Thompson submachine gun and smoke bombs, and he's wearing a jacket, and on the back of it is a picture of like a hand with the middle finger. Yeah, a red hand with the middle finger. They end up escaping and making it in a cool slow motion motorcycle jump. Yes. Yeah, straight out of Dukes of Hazzard or something, for sure. And so then they pull up to their compound. This is the compound that this man, Dutch, and Lisa have. And they get off the bike, and here's the exchange they have. So it'll give you a sense of Lisa's character here.
I thought we'd gotten past that.
You're sweet. It's okay, Tommy. This is the man, and I mean the man. But he's cool. It's okay. Come on, man.
Yeah, and what's interesting about this is she says, this is the man, and I do mean the man, and then she finishes it off with, come on, man. Like, it's just such a funny slice of her character. It embodies everything about the 70s that this film is kind of about. He's the man, but come on, man. You know, like, it's just, it's kind of perfect. And he is the embodiment of the establishment. Yes. Right? Yeah. He is the personification of the old system. Yes, but then we find out why Lisa has brought him here. She has I think it's a little brother. Yes. It could be a child, but I think it's a little brother who has the plague, and he's started to transition into one of these zombie creatures. Yeah, we should note, so all of these survivors have the plague. Yes. And so this is kind of where we learn a little bit more of the somewhat murky mechanics, where you can be resistant to the plague when you catch it. Right. And so you won't turn right away, but it is an inevitability. But some people, they say, Dutch says very critically, some people turn at a moment's notice, and you never know who that's going to be. And he actually knows Dr. Neville, Robert Neville, from prior to the war, because Dutch was a medical student and read one of his papers. And that's why they picked him out and recruited him once Lisa had discovered him. So let's pause here. This is a definite contrast in story from I Am Legend or The Last Man on Earth. Because in those stories, the woman he runs into is actually part of this new breed of vampire society. Yes. And that is sort of sent to lure him into his death. And that is not here. Like, genuinely, Lisa and Dutch are on his side at the beginning and want to help him, or they want his help to cure Richie, this kid. And later when he succeeds, they take a liking to him, and he's become part of their group, and they're going to get this serum, and they're all going to escape together. I thought it was interesting that the reason, like, Lisa ran from him earlier, and the reason they've kind of approached him really cautiously and almost kidnapped him. They rescued him, but they did it by making him their prisoner, is that they are kind of scared of him. Yes. Because in the novel I Am Legend and in Last Man on Earth, you find out that from the perspective of the vampires, the Neville is a monster. He's a dangerous terror that comes at night and kills you. And this is the part of this movie that taps into that theme. Yeah. Because at one point Lisa said, like, between the family terrorizing everyone at night and you shooting everything that moves during the day, we've been scared to approach you. Well, that was a sort of gotcha Twilight Zone kind of moment at the end of I Am Legend and at Last Man on Earth, where the main character realizes they are the legend, they're the monster. That is spelled out by Matthias and the family in the first act of this film. There's no twist here where we find out that that's the case. You know what I mean? Yeah. It is an interesting tweak on this by now fairly familiar story. Yes. Yep. Now I want to move us along here a little bit because we're getting to the meat of the movie, and though this sequence is good, it's very long. It's like the second act. It doesn't really advance too much. So I'm going to sort of talk through this, but if you want me to stop and pull anything out, let me know. My only thing I'm going to pull out is that at one point, Charlton Heston pronounces antibiotic as antibiotic.
I think he does it more than once.
That's right. So they decide to take Richie, who's a sick kid who's got the plague, back to his sort of fortress because he thinks he's got what he needs to cure him. And he does. He makes a serum Neville makes a serum from his own blood, since he's immune, transfuses it into Richie, and over time, the time is sort of compressed here, but Richie is cured or feeling better. While this is happening, romance strikes up between Lisa and Neville. And in the middle of that sort of romantic moment, they get attacked. But there is I also wanted to give Lisa a little more space here. So this is actually probably a good 20 minutes from where we are. But as Richie is recovering and stuff, Lisa has made it very clear she's interested in Charlton Heston's character. She's wearing a sexy outfit. Something's about to happen. But they have this sincere conversation, and she explains how her and Richie have a relationship with the family, which I thought was interesting.
Richie and I, we had us a place in the back of a furniture store. One day, we hear this bell. So we go out to see, and there are people there. We thought we were alone. Just me and Richie with millions of corpses. But there was Matthias and other people. Well, anyway, he gave us the family for a while.
And then she goes on to say, he started sort of talking crazy about destroying everything, how it was a group that was helping and supporting each other. And so her and Richie snuck out one night. And that's why she left the family.
I really liked this whole sequence of the movie. It's quiet, it does get interrupted by an attack here and there, but it's quiet. And I think really one of my favorite sequences was Neville and Lisa just sort of awkwardly flirting with each other.
Yeah.
And to Charlton Heston's credit, he does portray a man who has been so long without being around other people, let alone any sort of intimacy with other humans, that he has almost forgotten how to relate to a person like this. And I thought this was a strong part of the film.
Yeah, and I think, they throw romance in films because sometimes they feel it's required. But as far as all the cynical sort of positions this film takes about hippies in the 70s and the late 60s, this seems very genuine. I think it's a bit of a stretch to think Lisa would be interested in Charlton Heston. However, because he's so much older, but he does save her brother, right? So she has clear affection for him. It feels organic and real, and there's no cynical take on their relationship as an interracial relationship. I don't see,
No, I would definitely agree. The other thing I just wanted to say about this middle section of the movie, and then we can move on, John, to whatever you want to hit next, is if you think that the movie is if you have picked up on maybe some possible religious elements of Neville saving humanity with his blood,
yes,
the movie is pretty sure you didn't pick up on those because some of the least subtle symbolism I've ever seen in a movie is coming our way soon.
Yeah,
but
very soon.
Carry on.
So there's an attack, and in fact, the sidekick who was talking to Matthias early tries to use a gun to kill Neville, and he ends up dying and falling to his death.
He dies in a very villain way. He gets kind of shot up. It's a little gory, and then he falls and he gets impaled, I think, on a fence or something.
And I think there's a message here that because he tried to use technology to end Neville, he is punished more than the other members of the family. Yeah,
I loved that he was using a gun.
Yes.
And I wish we had gotten a few more lines of dialogue between him and Matthias, because what he's doing is using the very tools that they hate to get rid of their enemy. And I think there's a neat irony or hypocrisy or a decision to sacrifice his own purity towards a greater goal that I thought was pretty interesting.
Yes.
But it kind of just ends in him falling and getting impaled on a fence.
Yeah, absolutely. So then there's a sequence where, then everything's good. Richie's better. They're going to head back out to the compound. They just need to get a few things. So she's going to go into town and pick up some things. And Charlton and Richie have this debate on the rooftop. First of all, they're on this fortified rooftop of his place, and they have these machine guns. I looked them up. They're actually designed to go in airplanes, like fighter planes. They're these giant 20 millimeter canyons, and he's got them just sitting on his roof like, let's go. And Richie tells him a few things. First of all, he tells him, this is where they are. He gets the info. He gives the info that we think Neville's been looking for this whole time. This is where their nest is. I know. We were there. We're part of the family. Tell me what you think about this debate. I thought it was really interesting.
So this is, Richie is like the naive moral heart of this movie.
Yeah.
I think. And what Richie, up to this point, we have not really been given any reason to not look at Neville as a hero, just a straightforward hero. This scene is the first time where Neville is challenged. And Richie says, okay, so now that we know that your blood cures people, are you going to cure the family?
Right.
And Neville says basically, no, they're, at first he's kind of like, well, no, they're murderous jerks, I don't know. But towards the end of the conversation, he's saying some really harsh things. And he says something along the lines of like, they're irredeemable. They're just monsters.
They're half dead already.
They're just thugs.
Yeah.
Yes, they're half dead already. And you can see, and this is going to set the final sequence of the movie in action, is Richie doesn't want to accept that sort of utilitarian moral practicality, I guess.
No, and Richie sort of says, well, if you're not going to help him, why don't you just go wipe him out? He has a sort of very black and white view of what's going to happen there. Now, immediately following this, so Lisa's out on the town. She's sort of wrapped her head in a scarf and put on sunglasses. We'll find out why in a moment. However, a very naive Richie, with this information, he writes a note and leaves it for Lisa and Neville. And he says, and he doesn't say this, but what we've decided is he thinks now that he knows there's a cure, he knows where Matthias is. He's going to go tell Matthias and the family, hey, there's a cure. So he goes by himself to this dark building right at nightfall without a flashlight to talk to Matthias. Yes. Not the smartest move in the movie from a character.
But he is a kid.
He is a kid.
So this sort of like foolish decision making felt more natural for a kid.
Yeah. So he tries to convince. He has another debate. Richie really is the moral center of this movie, right? Because now he's debating Matthias about what they should do. And he says, well, look, you don't have to conduct this war anymore. You can get healed. This can all end. However, Matthias...
You can return to normal.
You can return to normal, he says. Matthias does not care for this. In fact, this is what Matthias says to that.
Silence! Oh, yes. He sent you to offer us something from his world, to change us back to the creatures we were. A trick! A trick to weaken our resolve.
I was almost like you, but he saved me. He brought me back. And he wants us all to go away from here.
You have been damned, Richard. Don't you see that? Don't you?
Yeah, it's a good exchange.
Neville now has found the note from Richie. He realizes what Richie has done. And so he puts on, this is an interesting scene. It's like our first zombie movie hero, like suiting up.
Yeah.
He puts on a Air Force jumpsuit, and he puts on his old military hat and gets all his guns, and he gets in this old 1945 like army vehicle, like from the old days, and he's going to go rescue Richie, and he's going to go find Lisa. However, things go south very quickly. First of all, what does he find when he gets to the location Richie told him about? Does he find any of the family?
He finds that the family have left, and he finds the dead body of Richie. He's been murdered by the family.
Yes. And then we see Lisa. So one thing that is sort of, I think this movie is really interesting to us, but there are a lot of dumb choices that make this movie kind of frustrating. One of them is it's nightfall. Everybody knows nightfall's bad, but Lisa is wandering out of the shopping center at nightfall, yes. And Richie has gone to see the family at nightfall. And the only one who's kind of smart about it is Neville, who gets armed to the teeth to go chase them down.
I groaned when they make such a big deal when they're all going to leave and it's all going to end happily.
Yeah.
And then Lisa makes such a big deal of like, no, I really need to go on one last shopping expedition.
I know. I was like, really?
It's like so forced. It's like no one would do this. But anyway.
But it is a wonderful reveal. So she comes out of this shopping center. She's had a wrap on her hair and sunglasses. She takes it off. And in just that short amount of time, as predicted by Dutch, she's completely become one of these pale-skinned zombies. And immediately become sympathetic to the family as part of that transformation.
Yeah, this is where I was trying to figure out how the mechanics of the zombies. I mean, why are they inherently, do they seem drawn to Matthias and the family? You know, I mean, there's probably an explanation in there. Maybe there's a little bit element of like a hive mindy sort of instinct that kicks in when you get zombified, but
yes,
it's a little murky. I was wondering if the movie, I mean, at this point, you know, the big reveal of the novel and the previous film adaptation was, you know, the woman kind of turning against the hero.
Right.
And I was wondering if this movie was going to have that or just skip that plot element entirely. But
we do have a little bit of that. Yeah.
She's a zombie now.
So in any case, there's a running battle with the family. He decides to go back to his apartment, but Lisa has led Matthias there, let Matthias in, and they're all there waiting for him. So they capture him again. And before they kill him, they hold him still and make him watch while they do what?
They trash his home and his lab. Like as just they very explicitly say, we're going to make you watch as we tear down the last pieces of the old world.
That's right. And he escapes quite easily. He grabs a gun. He escapes. He takes Lisa. He runs across the street to the fountain, the Friends fountain, apparently.
Yes.
And he's calling, you know, there's this sort of battle of wills between Neville and Matthias for Lisa. And Matthias calls her, and she starts to walk towards him, and Neville's saying, don't go back into the light. And then Matthias reveals himself as an Olympic-level javelin thrower. He takes a spear, because the family doesn't use any modern weapons. So he takes a spear they've crafted, throws it at Chuck Heston right in the heart.
It's like a 150-foot throw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he crumbles. Now, and then there's a great sort of exchange between Matthias and Lisa and Chuck Heston, who's just sort of there. So this is our last clip for the movie.
The bad dream is over, friend Neville. Now we can sleep in peace.
Lisa!
Robert, you're evil. I'm part of the family, Robert. I'm sorry. The family, Robert. You don't understand.
We haven't talked about the music, but you got a little glimpse of music, which sometimes works quite well.
Like it works pretty well there.
And other times it couldn't be more like discordant with the sequence. But it worked pretty well.
Mostly the action scenes, the music does not work. Is the flaw in this film. So he doesn't die yet. Dutch comes back in the morning and he finds him. He finds him at the fountain.
Yeah, so Dutch drives by the next morning with all the kids and the survivors, because remember they're going to meet up and all head out and leave the city and live in peace. And he finds that that Neville is still barely alive. He's still impaled. He's managed to fall into like this cruciform pose in a fountain filled with his blood.
Yes.
And his blood is circulating through the fountain and dripping out the top back onto him.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, the last thing he does is he hands to Dutch and the survivors a vial of his blood that he's been carrying, which is, contains the cure. Yeah. And then they drive off.
And Dutch, and they actually take Lisa and they drive off. They don't seem to have a lot of hope, and we're left.
Oh, yes, that's right. They take Lisa with them.
Yeah. And they drive off, and then the film goes negative on a shot of the crucified Robert Neville lying in a pool of his own blood.
Who has shed his blood for the world.
Yes.
Yes.
The end.
The end.
So that is The Omega Man. An interesting.
What a movie.
Yeah. What an interesting
movie.
Political commentary. a movie more of its time than any movie we've watched so far.
Yes.
We've talked a lot about it. Let's just let's get into our questions. I don't think we'll do 60s questions today, but as a aside on that, Andy and I are getting ready to record our 70s episode. We've both been doing some really fun research, so we'll soon have some 70s questions for you. But
yeah, and we talked about a lot of the 70s themes up front in this episode because this is a meaty film in the sense that if you are interested in like the early 70s, there's just a lot to pull out of this film and analyze.
Absolutely.
So, now, I want to say, like John, I saw this as a kid.
Yeah.
I think on Channel 50 in Detroit on the Creature feature.
Yep.
And this was the first film that terrified me.
Interesting.
Oh, interesting.
Because when you're 7 years old and you're watching a film where there's one man left and there's these people only come out at night and they're all white with the white eyes. It was just terrifying.
Yeah.
None of the political stuff landed.
No.
Nothing else landed but the terror of being alone and there's these creatures hunting you.
Well, and we're going to talk about this in depth in our 70s episode, Andy. But I want to make a quick point here that we'll elaborate on there. This movie is for adults.
Yeah.
Our previous movies have not been for adults. By and large, until you get to Night of the Living Dead or Last Man on Earth, prior to that, they're almost all for kids, with a couple of ringers in there like I Walked with a Zombie. But for a large portion, these have not been adult films. This is definitely an adult film.
Agreed. All right. Well, hey, John, in The Omega Man, is there a hero party?
There is. It just starts as Chuck Heston by himself, but then he picks up Lisa and Dutch and a bunch of kids, and they're a happy party who's going to happily cure the world and leave and be happy.
It ends so well for them. Yeah, so how do they do? How many survive?
Well, most of them survive, actually. If you count Lisa as survivor, it's really only Robert Neville that dies. He sacrifices himself for all of them.
It seems a little grim. I mean,
Richie dies too.
Richie dies too. That's right.
That's right. This movie, I mean, ostensibly it ends on a note of modest hope because the survivors are taking the blood with them. However, it has been established in the movie that it is a lot of work to do that blood transfusion, and it takes a lot of time and expertise. So I didn't feel real great about the chances of the survivor party, to be honest.
No. Oh, I actually did because Dutch was a medical student.
That's true.
And they've already tied him to Neville's. So the fact that he grabbed it, he knew what to do with it.
He's like the Neville Jr. Yeah.
I felt like something good was going to come from that.
Yeah.
As long as they can find a hospital with some medical equipment, I guess they'll be okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. What sort of zombie strain are we dealing with in this movie, if we are dealing with zombies at all?
So this is a strange one. I think these people are alive, but they're clearly changed and have a zombie-like hive mind, but they've retained their intelligence. It feels like no zombies we've quite had before, but I think they are zombies by our definition because they have this sort of group mentality and they're changed and don't really control their own actions.
Yeah, it's suggested also that they are sort of instinctively hostile on some level.
Yes.
And
when one of them tries to act independently, he dies horribly.
Yes. And their reduced mental capacity is represented in them seemingly being really vulnerable to manipulation by a clever zombie master.
Yes. Yep, absolutely.
So they're pretty menacing zombies. I mean, granted, Neville mows them down, by the bucket full in this movie, but they're pretty scary.
Yeah.
How are these zombies destroyed or killed?
They can be killed by any way you could kill a normal human. They have less regard for their lives than a normal human.
Yes. And they'll inevitably eventually be killed by the plague that has zombified them.
Correct.
Is there a zombie horde in this movie?
Absolutely. Giant one.
Let's see, are there any zombie firsts we should call out in the portrayal of zombies in this film?
Well, I feel like the intelligent zombie it feels like another evolutionary strain that's not going to proceed past this movie, right? Because they are zombies. They've lost their will to some extent, but they have not lost their ability to reason or plan. So
I feel like we've gotten a couple of intelligent zombies in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And it does feel like there's some momentum with this take on the zombie that is ultimately going to fizzle out.
Yeah, I think you're right.
They're also germ warfare and sort of accidentally created by man. I'm trying to think of another film that was sourced this way.
Horror of Party Beach had toxic waste that created zombies.
That's true. Last Man on Earth, it was organic, though. It was just a plague that happened.
Yeah.
So this would be the first germ warfare created by war directly.
Yeah, I think so.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, can these zombies return to being human?
I think so, actually. I think part of the point is that it is possible through great effort.
Yep. All right, John, at the beginning of this podcast, you identified 4 pillars of the zombie movie. Let's find out how many of them are represented here in the Omega Man. John, in the Omega Man, is there an apocalypse?
Absolutely.
Yep, a textbook zombie. Well, it's not a textbook zombie apocalypse. It's a textbook apocalypse of the sort you see in a zombie movie.
Yes.
Right. You know what is kind of interesting in this movie and the handful of other films where we've seen a global apocalypse? Like the apocalypse kind of clears everything out and then the zombies arise in the aftermath.
Yes.
I am interested for when we see, I guess we saw it in Night of the Living Dead, a movie where the apocalypse creates zombies and then these zombies kind of enact or complete the apocalypse.
Yes, the apocalypse is the zombies to some extent.
All right, John, in this movie, is there contagion?
Absolutely. The only person who's immune is Neville. Everybody else is still vulnerable to the plague.
And everybody else has basically just contracted the plague just by virtue of living on this planet, which is inundated with it, essentially.
Yes.
Are there tough moral choices in this movie?
Absolutely. Like, I think that's what Richie and Neville are talking about the whole time. Who does Neville save? You know, he wasn't going to save the zombies, but now that Lisa's a zombie, he wants to give it a shot. He wants to save her. So, tough moral choices abound in this film.
Yeah, in this movie, moral choices kind of get at that juicy classic zombie movie choice of, you know, what price are you willing to pay, you know, for your survival? You know, are you what of your humanity are you willing to give up to survive and thrive in this world?
And what's interesting is that in Neville's arc is that he's given all of it up to kill these guys, right?
Yes.
However, once he meets some people that sort of, you know, restore a little faith in humanity, now he wants to try to protect them, and that ends up killing him.
I do think this movie, that theme might have worked better if they had not pitched him as such like a likable hero for the first half of the film.
Yeah, I agree.
I wish they had seeded a little bit more this idea that like he has gone a little bit over the edge.
Yes.
But anyway.
And I wish he had gotten smart and realized if these zombies have a ticking clock, why not just wait them out?
Yeah.
Why go hunting? Why put yourself in danger?
That's a good question. Yeah. All right. And lastly, does this movie feature loved ones turning against you?
Yes, absolutely. You know, they turn against Richie. Lisa turns against Neville. It's very sad and happens all over the place for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we typically close with 3 questions about each zombie movie we watch. John, would you and I survive in the zombie world of the Omega Man?
Oh, I'm pretty sure not. I have no useful skills. I don't know how to fire a gun. I'd probably become a member of the family, but not like an important one. That's my guess.
You'd be the guy burning from torch on the right.
Yes.
Third from the right.
Yeah.
Third burning guy flailing around from the right. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. There's too many ways to die here. So assuming the plague doesn't get me, I do feel like the family could probably try a little harder to get at Neville than they do. I when they wheel that catapult in at the beginning, it's kind of like, is there really no more like practical way to just charge up to his apartment?
Yeah.
But I do think that that's too many ways I could get killed. So
yeah, and like at one point he has to fix a generator and he realizes it's not primed, so he's got to prime it. And like as soon as the generator didn't turn on when I pressed the button, that's it for me.
Yes.
Like
yes, it doesn't work. And then he goes to a different part of the machine and starts manipulating it. Like he lost me already.
Yeah,
I just
like,
know how to press the big button.
You're a genius. It's a miracle. Yeah. So
all right, John, is this a zombie movie or is this a movie with zombies?
This is a zombie movie for sure.
Yeah, I think so.
Though they're not zombies, but they are. So.
And lastly, John, do you recommend The Omega Man first, just to a general audience? Is this a movie people should make time to check out? And secondly, do you recommend it specifically to our zombie-loving listeners as an important milestone of zombie cinema?
As much as I enjoyed this movie, I mostly enjoyed it because of its sort of lack of cultural subtleness, and its like big swing caricature of the 1970s and the end of the 60s. I don't know how interesting that is to other people. I loved it. It's a decent movie. It's not like terrible.
Yeah.
So I'm going to like soft yes on general audience, hard yes on zombie fans.
I think I'll agree with that. Yeah. I did enjoy watching this. I do think that much of my enjoyment was how 1970s it is.
Yeah, like if that, I could see a lot of people being like, this is dumb, you know, like not enjoying that part of it. But I just, like the other thing that we're running into here, Andy, and this is going to happen to you soon. It just happened to producer Brad and I. Brad and I were alive when this movie came out. It has actors that we recognize from today. Like this is new territory for us.
Actors from our favorite films in our teens are in this film.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is new. This is new territory for us. And you're a few years younger than Brad and I, but soon you will be there as well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, with that, it's time for the scariest part of every episode, and that's when producer Brad reveals to me and John what zombie movie we will be watching next. John, do you have any sort of a gut instinct about where we're going? Up, down?
I mean, it's got to be down.
Well, for our next film, we are going to do something different.
Oh.
Many of the films we have watched were released on a double bill, and we watched only one of those movies.
Okay.
I think it's time we had a double feature.
Okay.
Oh.
So, here's the trailer for our next films, and then I'll launch right into the poster, and you can describe it after that.
All right.
Here we go.
The biggest double horror show in history. I drink your blood and I eat your skin.
No!
Men become animals and eat their victims. I drink your blood and I eat your skin.
Did this have to be two movies?
No.
I feel like we're laughing because of the posters.
I don't know how you don't watch these together.
Yeah. Okay, so right at the top it says, 2 great blood horrors to rip out your guts. And then it has some terrible drawings. It's got a decapitated head and like a zombie face. And like it says, I drink your blood. And then in small letters it says, and then it says, I eat your skin, which has like a skull and zombies with axes. This is what we were worried about the 70s, Andy.
Yes. It's coming right at you.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
You're not playing around this time. Is one of the people impaled through the back of the head with an arrow coming out of their mouth in the top right-hand corner? Is that what that is?
It certainly looks like it.
It's very possible that's the case. There's a lot of decapitated heads on this poster.
Yeah, I'm curious to see this because another famous thing about
there's a hand that's been chopped off too.
Oh yeah, with the thumb is like missing.
So do we need to keep track and tally decapitated heads on posters? Because this one has 1, 2, 3 of them.
3 of them, I think.
Plus a hand.
Maybe we're gonna. The other thing about the 70s is this is when stuff gets real, right? The 70s have Last House on the Left and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and all that kind of stuff. So I wonder if we're getting a little preview of that kind of action. So.
And the 70s are when I have to find it. I have a book from my childhood called The Gore Score.
Yes.
And it came out in the mid-'80s, and it was a guy who loved horror films, and he rated movies from the 70s and the early 80s strictly by the amount of gore.
Aha! So
I need to find that. It's
You're
somewhere
not
in
going
this
to tell
house.
us what these guys, how they ranked on that?
I will, as soon as I find the book, yeah.
I like to think of this as an incredible leap in technology. How about that?
I don't know if incredible leap is a phrase we're going to be using for this one, but I could be surprised.
All right.
Or is this going to support Matthias's argument for the failure of technology?
I think it might. All right, folks. Well, if you haven't had a chance to rate our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, we would love it if you would do that. It really helps us out. We will see you in our next episode for I Drink Your Blood and I Eat Your Skin. You've been listening to Zombie Strains. We'll be back next episode to talk about another zombie movie. If you enjoyed our podcast, please take a moment to rate us in your podcast app of choice. Tell a friend. Follow us on Instagram at zombiestrains. All of this helps like-minded people find the show. See you next time.